Nigeria is warning of further flooding after neighbouring Cameroon said it would start releasing water from its largest dam. More than 400,000 people in Nigeria have already been affected after heavy rain caused floods and widespread destruction across Western and Central Africa. Authorities fear the latest flooding could affect as many as 11 states. The floods have worsened the humanitarian crisis in Nigeria, where violence has forced millions from their homes.
This is how some residents of flood-hit northeastern Nigeria are getting from A to B. The area has been underwater since heavy rains led to a dam wall bursting in neighbouring Cameroon last week, and now the threat of further flooding looms. The Benue River flows downstream from Cameroon to Nigeria, and there are several dams along it. Authorities in Cameroon had warned that they were releasing water from one of them, the Lagdo Dam off Lake Lagdo, sparking fears across the border with Nigeria, claiming that would leave 11 states at risk of flooding. Hundreds of thousands of people have already been displaced in Nigeria because of the rising waters, according to the UN, including a part of the country that has already seen millions forced to flee due to an Islamist insurgency.
It's an absolute tragedy for these local people who had their homes wiped out due to the flooding and were already affected by conflict in the region, Boko Haram related conflict. These are farmers that would rather be on their farms, now being hit by floods. So what we saw today was continued challenges for people to live away from their homes.
Nigeria, the most populous country in Africa, is prone to flooding, and experts say climate change is making extreme weather events more frequent. They claim more needs to be done to prepare, highlighting the need to modernise ageing infrastructure and improve crisis planning, providing some hope for those who risk losing everything when the waters start to rise.
Let's go over now to Olisa Chukuma, our correspondent in Lagos. What is the situation like in Nigeria right now?
Well, the situation, especially when it comes to the floodings in Maiduguri, capital of Borno State, is that people have been displaced. We're talking about close to 400,000, with more than 1 million totally affected here. Now, we've seen the camps where many of these people have been. These camps have been filled to capacity. They cannot take in anymore. So we have families, people, children, all piling up outside the camps in major roads, expressways that are flood-free, that have been dried up for them to put up, because the tents and the makeshift arrangements in the camps have just been filled to capacity. Don't forget, this makes it more than a week since the dam in the northeast burst and really flooded more than 15% of the city of Maiduguri in Borno State, with livestock destroyed, homes destroyed, families are affected. In fact, we have problems of fears of contamination because of the sewage waters that have been affected, including major hospitals being affected and damaged due to the flooding situation.
And what about this dam in Cameroon? It's set to release water.
Yes, now this is nothing new in terms of the Nigerian authorities, because Nigeria continues to experience perennial flooding, especially this time of the year with the heavy rainfalls. So every year you have the Cameroon authorities, the dam, they're releasing water, which then also flows into Nigeria. Now that announcement has been made for a gradual release of that water. Now the Nigerian authorities have gone on to release flood warnings for 11 states, not just in the north of the country like Borno, Maiduguri, but also in the south that may be at risk of flooding. So they have to start putting in, measures to alleviate the floodings come when they begin with the release of the water from Cameroon. But it's nothing new when it comes to Cameroon releasing water into Nigeria.
But how prepared is Nigeria for this and for floods in general?
Now, that is the big question. With the situation we now have in Borno, including a state like Jigawa, where we have about 15 people already displaced by floods, many are asking if the authorities are really prepared for the levels of flooding that will happen. Don't forget, we have seen high percentage of rainfalls already this year in the north of the country and in the south. The rain still continues in many of these parts, and with the flood waters from Cameroon and with the waters already as we experience them, many fear that there might be more problems of flooding downstream especially in Nigeria's south area. We've seen emergency calls made, 11 states have been warned, but how much of an effort will be done to alleviate this flooding, because the waters will come, and that's what the authorities are saying.
Well, Lisa Chukuma with the very latest from Lagos. Thank you.